Greetings, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. I am the Angry Rhino. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Today, I'm going to go over what I recommend in the event store. Why have I waited so long? Yeah, kind of my bad. I probably should have mentioned this, we'll call it a tactic. Secret contacts, you've seen this bucket that has appeared since the arc started. There have been 3 iterations of this. We are on the 3rd iteration right now. It just started today. What the event is, spend event store currency. Why 3 iterations? Well, they last for 5 days, and then if you notice the math, 3 times of 5 days would be 15 days. 20 days in the arc. That's right, there will be a larger leaderboard the last 5 days. The last 5 days. Kind of think of it as kind of a tournament. Place in the top 25 to be entered into the final event. So there will be a final. So there were technically 4 iterations, 3 being the qualifier and the 4th and final one being the final match, so to speak. So I have waited. The first one had an officer, Harry Kim, in the as a reward here, along with qualifying. Then it was Tuvok, and now it's Torres. Much rather had Torres. Personal opinion, though. So glad I waited. And yet I'm sorry that I didn't explain that to you. But hopefully you have some event store currency left. Hopefully you didn't spend all of it. I saved mine. I haven't spent any of mine yet. But I will spend enough to, at the very least, finish in the top 25. Where I may shoot somewhere between 2nd and 5th. First, I think is going to be too expensive because I want to save for the last one. But I do want a good amount of Balana shards, so 7 or 5 shards I think is good. So, what will I be targeting? Well, what I'm going to be targeting is going to be a little different, but let's go through these buckets. Start off with ship parts. There's not a whole lot in here. Don't worry about this Franklin shit. Don't worry about this plutonium shit, because those hijack ships never really panned out. And what is the stupid minor botany bay? Is you can get all that shit. You don't need to spend event store currency on that. Defiant, I still say that Defiant is shit. So much shit that I call it the USS trash can. I only said Defiant because it is labeled as the Defiant. To me, it is USS trash can. And that's really insulting the trash cans because trash cans are more useful. They hold all my trash. And then I can pick up the trash and take it out to the curb. Much easier. Much more useful than that dumbass shit that they designed in here. I'm sorry if you feel differently. Because for whatever reason, we took different paths. But for me, the Defiant has never helped me win a Jem'Hadar Armada. And I'm not going to forego winning an Armada and hitting a bigger target for a few extra edicts. I think it's ridiculous. Spore drive components, that is for the Discovery. I think it is okay to spend a few event store currencies on this Discovery ship parts in order to max your Discovery. You max your Discovery, you get higher warp range, you get summoning, you get better refines from the little Discovery refinery. Max Discovery gives you a lot of speed ups. So it is somewhat useful. Mantis ship parts, I'm going to say no because the ship itself is useless. You are much better off using a different ship and using 5 Tal Georgiou. Yes, you do want to tier up your Mantis. I understand that. That means more Syndicate XP. But there is research to actually get some more ship parts. So I don't think spending your event store currency is necessary here. Cerritos, you can get Cerritos parts from the Voyager refinery. So again, don't spend them here. Now Modavine ship parts, I do think the Modavine is important. The higher tier you go, the more par steel, titanium, and dilithium you can get daily. Now, the higher and higher you push it, it's going to be maybe harder to acquire the loot. But at the same time, you can auto grind the loot, so it's not that big a deal, I don't think. This Fisha shit. Now, these warp interlock, you get one free. So this is really for a second Fisha. Now, with the Ferengi Whip, having a second Fisha isn't really going to do you anything. It doesn't move the needle as far as Mining Monday goes. Because you're not going to have the whip. So what does it really do? It doesn't do anything. Because it's not going to get you nearly as many points as, let's say, a Fisha with a Ferengi Whip. So what's the point? Fisha parts, pretty sure they are also in the Voyager refinery, so not necessary. Here's another stupid Fisha warp regulator. Why there are so many, I don't even know. Now, Devore parts, to a certain extent, it is beneficial to max the regular Devore refinery. You would need to max a Devore. And conversely, maxing a Devore, maybe maxing the tier, but going to level 41, you can scrap that for a Fisha and get a full Fisha unlock. So there is some benefit there. Is it more beneficial to buy all these Devore parts to max a Devore and then be able to scrap a Devore to get a Fisha, or get Fisha parts or Fisha blueprints, Fisha blueprints from the event store? It probably is going to depend on where you're at with your Devore. If you're maybe one full tier away, it depends on how many Fisha blueprints you have. I would say one tier on the Devore is probably the cutoff. If you have no Fisha blueprints, it would definitely cost you more to get all the Fisha blueprints than to just get some Devore parts. But it may take some math doing on your part. But as far as, being a collector and checking the box, I did spend event store currency to max a Devore just because, what's the word? It irked me that I didn't have a max Devore, so I wanted to max a Devore just to, get that done. Alright, so let's go to special currencies now. Proto Matter, potentially. Not sure I really like the exchange rate here, but if you do have some forbidden tech, let's say some of the rare and the epic forbidden techs, can be beneficial to get a few of these here just to be able to upgrade them, especially if you're a free-to-play person. Active nanoprobes, no. Cultivated mycelium, look, I don't actually use my discovery that much anymore, mainly because of superhighways. But I do understand how fun and useful the discovery is and summoning. So if you're one of those people that really like to summon your ship all the time, can be beneficial to get a bunch of mycelium stuff here. Orb splinters, no. Carver particles, no. You can get plenty through the Cerritos refinery. And remember, I said Voyager, you can max your Cerritos out really quick, so you can get these from refinery. The normal Cerritos refinery. Axionic chips, no. Independent credits, love independent credits, but the exchange rate is trash, so no. Cloak Rocketeer, Cloak is dead as far as I'm concerned, so no. Urbanite, I think the drip of the Urbanite is fine, so I don't really see that much benefit in getting extra here unless you use it a lot. I don't really use those Cerritos a lot. A different mycelium claim here. Tetrions, no. Remember I said Cloak is dead. Trade XP. I think the Bajoran faction store and the uncommon pool, the uncommon Armada chest pool, is good sourcing for trade XP. So I wouldn't necessarily use event store currency on this. Proto Catalyst, this is the tiering up for Forbidden Tech. If you're struggling to get enough of this stuff to tier up, then maybe getting a few of these is okay. Going to depend on you. I think the Forbidden Tech stuff, it's a little lower on my list, but there is some value there. Syndicate XP, I'm not wild about the exchange rate, especially because when you start getting up there in levels, like for me, I think it's over 300,000 to level up a Syndicate. How many pulls of this do I need? I would need 100. That's 750,000 for one level. It's not great. This is more of a catch-up mechanic. So if you're, let's say, below 20 in Syndicate, maybe this is good for you. Anything higher than that, I wouldn't. Because I think it's just going to cost too much. Ship refits. These salvage refits you can get from Apex, and they're not that useful. One, they're only for the G3 epics, and two, it's only a little bit of mitigation. Though a little bit of mitigation does help. These fancy refits for the Valdor, the Katinga, and the Kelvin, they're just a reputation increase. Now, I don't think you're going to have these ships long enough to really see the benefit here. So I would say no. Amalgam refit. Are you a raider? Isn't there another place to get that? I swear there's another place to get that, and I can't remember where it is. All it does is it increases the shippability of the amalgam, so there is use there if you are a raider. If you're not a raider, there's no use here. But if you really like raiding, there is a use there. Jellyfish Cloak. 1, I said Cloak was dead. 2, for the Jellyfish, no. And a lot of these cloaks, like the Enterprise, they're in a faction store. TOS refit, you can get that through the amalgam refinery, and there are researches so you can increase that amalgam refinery. So no. I already explained the Katinga. I think the Pilum here, this is a G4. The G4 rare and higher, the cloaks are not in the faction store. So either paying for them or using event store currency is very expensive. Well, you need 8. You need 80. So what's 56 times 8? That's a lot is what it is. What is that? 500,000? Sure, we'll go with somewhere between 400 and 500,000. That's a lot to spend on a relatively dead mechanic, especially because whenever you're done with the Pilum and you move on to another ship, then you have no use for this Pilum cloak, really. So, another Salvager refit, Gladius cloak. Again, that's a low one. It's in the faction store. Corvus cloak. Same thing as the G4 thing. The Amalgam cloak. The Amalgam cloak, it's somewhere else because I have it, but I got it somewhere else. I don't remember where the hell I got it. It is useful. It can be useful because the cloak is long. So you can, let's say, go to a territory, cloak your amalgam, and be sitting there, especially for a 1-star. I think you can sit there the whole time cloak. There is use there. But I don't know it's worth event store credit because, like I said, I got it somewhere else. These you can get in the faction store. Get that otherwhere else. Sarcophagus. Sarcophagus is trash. So, no. Burrell, no. No, none of these cloaks. Cerritos refit. Depends on how long you use your Cerritos. Or how much you use your Cerritos. And you may be thinking, oh, well, I can use my Cerritos in wave defense. Well, it can take anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes to complete wave 10. Now, is the Cerritos buff going to last that long? It only lasts, what does it last, 9 minutes? I think mine lasts 9 minutes. With an extra 50%, because that's all that does. Is that getting me to 15 minutes? Is the buff going to last until wave 10? If the buff isn't going to last until wave 10, then it's not that useful. Who cares? 50%, that's it? And you want me to... Because you need 120 of these. Well, if 80 is 300,000, then 120 would be 450,000. You want to spend 450,000 on an extra 4 minutes on your Cerritos buff? No. And we come to the end of the line here. And this is really another reason why I say cloak is dead. You saw the Corvus cloak in here. Do you see the Sanctus or the Sompat cloak in here? Well, I have both ships. Why would they not be in here? They're not in here. Pay only. That's why cloak is dead. Cloak is dead because they killed it. They stopped putting them in the faction store. They stopped putting them in the event store. Pay only feature that is 2 years old. Nope. I don't engage with cloak anymore. I would like to, but they kind of made me do it. Coming into the blueprints. All these faction ships, Hegtub, Rel, Antares, Vaclus, Tribune, no. The exchange rate is trash. One, these G4 epics aren't even worth it. They're too expensive. These faction miners can be grounded out. So can the Burrell. Plenty other ways to get them. The amalgam now, there is... What's the Saturday thing? Cosmic Cleanup. There is an event store for that where you can get a lot of specialty ships there. Now, there are quite a few of them, so can maybe supplementing that loop with an event store, can that work for you? Potentially, there's potential there. I'm not saying that I would spend a lot of currency here. I wouldn't. But if you really want this ship, and Cosmic Cleanup is taking too long. Now, there will be a Cosmic Cleanup tomorrow, so you can kind of judge that. Can you wait for Cosmic Cleanup to get all these specialty ships that are in there? Meridian, at least I think the Meridian is in Cosmic Cleanup. I can't remember. I actually have been using my second Meridian now, mainly because they increased the amount of isogen I need to refine. Didn't necessarily increase how much I get. I mean, a little bit with the, the refined emulsion. Didn't give me any more alloys, which is kind of annoying. But there is potential here that maybe one and or a second Meridian. Wait, did I see the... Oh, I don't see all the refits. The Meridian refit, if the Meridian refit is in there, and honestly don't know if it's in there, it would appear that if I have the refit, I don't see it. So try to remember some of this stuff. The Meridian refit can be worth it. I'm trying to think about all the other refits I have now. I don't have that many. I didn't buy a lot of them from this store. So there's other places to get some of these refits. Faction ships, no. Botany Bay, no. You can get that for free. The baby jellyfish, I used to recommend getting a baby jellyfish because it can help in base defense. The problem is, apparently the whales complained so much that us smaller folk were actually killing their ships, so the developers kind of made a bunch of stuff that the whales would buy and kind of wrecked base defense. And even Sloan to a certain extent, which has free to play sourcing, which is very nice, but he does kind of wreck base defense, which is very disappointing, and I hate it. I don't really understand that. So, not sure I completely recommend a baby jellyfish anymore. Separatist D3, the only difference between the Separatist D3 and a regular D3 is it's red and you can't scrap it. So, that's only for collectors. Faction ships, no. Franklin and Vidar blueprints. I say the Franklin is dead, so I wouldn't waste any currency on it. The dailies will populate regardless of whether you have a Franklin or not, and you can do them without the Franklin. Except from like level 35 to 37. You're going to have some trouble, but only for 2 or 3 levels, because when 38 comes around, you can do swarm sweeps in the X-Borg tree. That unlocks, and then you can do the dailies by killing freebooters. So there's really no point in getting the Franklin anymore. Vidar is one of the most important ships in the game because... Wait, how do you get it, Talios? You get it, Talios, because you had a maxed Vidar, right? But you got to keep both of them. I don't remember how they did the free-to-play path because I got mine in a mission. Does a mission automatically populate when you get to the right level or you get the right tier of Vidar? I don't remember. But if you don't have a Vidar, you're going to want to try to get a Vidar somehow. Cosmic Cleanup is a good way. Again, supplementing Cosmic Cleanup, there's potential here for you. Cerritos, there is a second contact mission that comes up every Wednesday, and you can get 10 blueprints there. 10 iterations of that, and you have a Cerritos. So I'm not sure it's really worth spending event store currency on. Mantis. Mantis is in the incursion store. You know how incursions go. So maybe getting a few blueprints here be beneficial to you. It can. Is it? Something you're going to have to decide, but there is some value here. North Star is overrated. Yes, it mines very fast, at least when you're in G2 and G3 land. No protected cargo, so I don't care. But that is a personal opinion. And I mean, for me, it's just kind of a waste. Faction ships, no. USS Titan A. You can get this for free, but you have to use X-Borg credits to do it. I have no blueprints. Of course, the picture isn't even right. So hopefully, when you pull this, even though that is the Voyager, but this is the Titan, hopefully you actually get Titan blueprints. We'll see, I guess. I see some value here because I don't want to spend X-Borg credits on this. And at the same time, Becca did and has the Titan, and she complains to me a lot that she doesn't know enough of the intricacies of the loop to really be able to know how to do it. So she whines at me to get the Titan so I can tell her how to do it. So I will end up spending 150,000 event store currency to get the Titan. There is value there. It does do things. It does stuff. I don't know, it boosts things. I barely even know what the hell this dumb thing does. I looked at it and I said, it's stupid. I mean, they literally could have just made a refit for the Cerritos. But no, they had to add a whole new ship with a whole new set of tasks to do, with a whole new shit ton of currencies. Why? Why? Just to piss us off. So there is some value in the Titan. Devore blueprints, you're going to get enough of those from the 7-day chest. Discovery, there is some value here, though it is also in Cosmic Cleanup. Sarcophagus is trash. Stella blueprints, there is value in getting a second Stella, but beware. You can get a free Stella from participating in the rogue faction events or paths or missions that come up in that faction store. If you buy a Stella here, you then can no longer get a free one. So get the free one first, then maybe spend some event store loot on a second one. Defiant, I say that Defiant's trash. Don't get it. Remember, USS Trash Can. It's useless. But that is a personal opinion. Because you've seen some of my videos, I've even had trouble with the active ability. The stupid cooldown didn't refresh the button, and I couldn't even use the cooldown. You couldn't even use the button. Fisha blueprints, I did say there was some value in the Fisha. Not a whole lot. Monavine blueprints, yes, I do see some value here. Now, if you are in a big alliance that has a 3-star territory with Monavine blueprints, maybe you don't have to get that many here. But you will probably want to supplement that grind. Of course, you can only get 100, so you can only get half the blueprints. Why, I don't know. Why is any of this stuff limited? That's stupid. But whatever. If I want to spend all my event store currency on one ship, why can't I? Why not? Okay. So there is some value with getting the Monavine. Resources and materials, no value there. I would love to say that some of these avatars are useful, but you come in here and you look at the price tag. 300,000 event store currency for a little bitty picture. Dumb. It's dumb. The exchange rate is trash. Alright, so let's go back to, you notice I skipped the officers. There's a reason for that, best for last. Alright, so these lower decker guys. Ransom, Billups, Shax. They are isolytic cascade people that go with the strike teams. There is use there. Because they're epic, they cost a lot. So if you only need a few for a tier up or an unlock, I think it's okay. But it's a lot. You can see I would need to buy this 10 times if you need 100 shards. That's 600,000 event store currency. That's a lot. It's really a lot. But the officers are good, and they are kind of important in PvP now. So they are worth some credits. Carol Freeman, pretty much the same thing. I don't know that it's necessarily worth it to spend 600,000 for a complete unlock or a complete tier up. But I do think it's worth a smaller portion of that just to unlock the officer, or to, if you only need a few to tier up. This bitch, kitty cat bitch, I just don't see it. Okay, ship state and synergy with Freeman, that's cool, nice, I guess. Very low percentage to put a state on, unless you have a very high tiered one. This is more of a spender's officer. And at the same time, I don't want to put morale on my opponent. I don't want to do that. I don't want to help them. And the isolytic defense isn't calculated that well. Not as well as the offense portion. So you're not actually increasing your defense that much. But again, there is some value in a few shards to unlock. Okay, Alonzo Freeman. He's a nice officer. He's a useful officer. If you're looking just to unlock, I think it's okay. Otherwise, I think the officer's garbage. I don't need another cargo size officer. Another one. How many cargo size officers do we need? We already got 2 stones. We have a Lana below deck. Hey. Okay. Look, if you wanted extra cargo size and extra reputation, by all means, go for it. I say he's not really worth more than just an unlock. Especially since they don't want to source him. I'm not going to spend all my event store currency on somebody they won't source. I'll spend some of it, but I won't spend all of it. Let's go with Neelix here. Because his ability won't work with Tau, he has far less usefulness. And it doesn't work in PvP. Now, if you use a battleship, it can be useful because then you can generate more isolytic damage. You can also burn armadas and hostiles. It can help. But you really need to get like tier 4 for this ability to really activate enough. Can get expensive. His officer ability, it's nice to reduce the cost of summoning the bag of dicks in the Voyager loop, but at the same time, remember that trick I showed you for incursions. I don't really have that much use for Neelix. Plus, when you max your Voyager, or you get close to it, like I'm at tier 11 with my Voyager already, you just don't need to do the loop as much, or at least summon the bag of dicks as much. Seven of 9. I would put her above the other epic PvP officers I was talking about, the strike team and the Freeman, because her below deck ability is increase isolytic cascade. Not isolytic damage, but isolytic cascade. So, now especially because you see where I'm at, I need 38 shards. Well, I'm going to get 20 from the lockbox. So, what's that, 18 shards? Definitely worth event store currency because I will get a tier up. Just getting 50 shards for the sake of getting 50 shards, even though it's not going to get you a tier up, there's less value there. But there is some value. Alright, video's getting kind of long, so we'll come to the last 2 officers. Picard. I do like this officer. Especially if you don't have him, I think he's definitely worth some event store currency. Is he worth 600 if you don't have any shards? Because we don't know how much event store currency you're going to get. I think I've gotten about 300,000 free to play. Maybe. I don't know how much you've got, but it's tough. But the extra loot for the captain ability, it's synergization. However you say that, because you got Enterprise Data, you got New Troy, New Riker this month as well, all synergize with this and increase that, so there's use there. And his officer ability, I don't think it's as good as Data's, but that does depend on the ship you have. If you have a ship that shoots a lot of weapons in the first 2 rounds, you could see some use here. 5% Look, I got one ship that fires 3 weapons in the first round. That's 15%. That's good. That is good. The problem here is that he does cost more to tier up. But he's still a good officer. Best for last, in my opinion, because he's rare, he's cheaper. Because he's rare and not epic, he's a lot cheaper. It's essentially the same officer ability as Picard, but it's a flat rate. I'm only at tier 2 and I get 50%, 15%. I tier up, I'll get 20%. To me, that's better than Picard. And then, of course, more cargo below deck. Ooh. They could just increase the cargo size of ships. Maybe more researches to increase cargo size. Of course, pretty sure Sloan, the new free-to-play fleet commander, does have some cargo increasing somewhere. Can get it there. Maybe not use this guy below deck because I think he's great with Pike and Moreau. You saw one of the, not the last video, but maybe the video before that, I guess. Saw all the isolated damage I was generating with just a tier 2 data. Think about how much more I'm going to be generating with a tier 3 data. Think about how much you could be generating with a tier 2 or a tier 3 or even just an unlock of data. Is that going to be better than Pike Moreau Chen? Yeah. Yeah. Can a level 55 player use Pike Moreau data for their hostile grinding? Yes, because it's going to work against every hostile. Except freebooters, because they do have that increased piercing. But then you could use older Picard and older Beverly. Or I guess that's not necessarily true. Not the old versions, as in age. The old as in time of game. The 2.5-year-old. I don't even know. The other Picard and Beverly that they put in this game for hostile grinding. It'll work. I don't know if it's best, but Pike Moreau data is going to be very good in wave defense. You want to do more than wave defenses? You want to do better in wave defenses? Pike Moreau data is the answer. Has to be on one of your ships. And spending event store loot for data, in my opinion, is the best use of your event store currency. That is just an opinion. Wrapping that up here, I think data is the best use of your currency. Second on the list is probably any other officer that's relatively close to a tier up. Then next on that list would be some of these specialty ships. Monavine, Titan, Vidar. What the hell were some of the other ones? Meridian, a Disco. It's used there. And then maybe some of the harder to source ship parts, like say a Monavine. Be beneficial to spend your event store loot on that. Comment below. Have you waited this long to spend event store currency? Some people, I know they got this loot and they want to spend it and it burns a hole in their pocket. Have you been able to wait this long? How much event store currency do you think you have? Because we're right at about the 10-day mark. We're about halfway through. How much event store currency have you gotten free to play? And I totally forgot anything else I might have said. So we'll just end this. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm the Angry Rhino. Shields up, Commanders.